All right, we made it. The transfer portal is closed. We should have done a live stream last night, actually. Very, very early this morning, starting at about 11:30. And like as we counted down to midnight, we should have hit like a gavel, like boom, boom, boom. The portal is closed. For football, at least, the spring transfer portal window is closed. Nobody else went in. They obviously had 8 players go into the transfer portal during the spring portal window, but there were no last-minute additions to the portal, no last-minute departures from Pitt into the portal, and I think it was close. I think there were probably some last-minute efforts from other schools to try to get Pitt players into the transfer portal, but it didn't work out. Pitt held on to everybody else who was still on the roster, and now they're moving forward with sorting out the pieces, sort of getting things in order, finding out how many scholarships they actually have available, how many they're going to have available, and trying to figure out what they can do with the rest of those. Like we keep saying, the transfer portal is closed, but that's just the entry to the transfer portal, which is closed. Players can still come out of the transfer portal. You can still add guys from the portal, and that's what the Pitt coaching staff is certainly going to be focused on here. You know, going forward over the next few weeks, maybe the next few days, maybe the next few months, we'll see how it works out. But they'll be focused on trying to add players, which means the next step in the process is figuring out how many open scholarships they've got. The numbers are slim. There's not a lot of room, but there should be some room to play with as they move forward. So now that the transfer portal is officially closed, let's talk about what it meant for Pitt in this spring portal window. What did they lose? What did they add? What do they need to add? Are they going to get what they need? And also some non-transfer news coming out of the basketball side. This sort of tied into everything we're talking about and just the general upside-down nature of the way the world is today. That's always fun to go down the path of ridiculousness in college sports. So let's go down that path right here on the Tuesday edition of the Morning Pitt. Nope, it's not Tuesday, it's Wednesday. That's how ridiculous and upside down things are. I don't even know what day it is. But it's the Wednesday edition of the Morning Pitt right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Yeah, we're off to a slamming good start there. When I get the days mixed up, I tell you it's Tuesday and actually Wednesday. But you know what day it is. It's the middle of the week. It's hump day. It's the day of our live stream and all the other things that we do. And we're midway through the week here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Like this video and subscribe. I've been trying to mix it up when I ask you to do that, what points in the video, but today I'm going to ask you to do it right off the bat. Click the like button and click the subscribe button right down there. I can't believe we didn't get to 4,000 by the end of the month. A lot of you are watching these videos and you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel. It really would be very easy for you to do so. You just click the subscribe button. It's right down there. It's not hard to do at all. You can click that, and then I will not be bothering you about it. I'll be bothering everyone else about it. So do that, and then you won't miss out on any of our Pitt video content. We have a lot that we do here. We have these morning Pitt videos every day of the week, Monday through Friday. We have our live show that we do every Wednesday night right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. That's tonight at 8 o'clock. Me and Jim Hammett will be getting together for an hour of Pitt sports talk, and we'd love to have you join us. You know what we do. We sit down and we talk Pitt sports for an hour. And you guys tune in and you join in the comments and questions right over here on the right side of your screen. There'll be a chat section or chat screen, and you can type your comments and questions in there and join the conversation. It's always a lot of fun to do, and we always like having people join in. So join in and hang out with us tonight. And if you're worried you'll forget about it, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, and you can turn on notifications. And then you'll know every time we go live. You won't miss any of our live streams. We'll certainly be talking a lot about transfers and the portal and players who left and players who didn't tonight. But we're going to talk about a little bit about that today, as the portal for football has closed. I think the portal for basketball closes today. This is the final day, so we can bang the gavel tonight at midnight. We're not going to do a live stream at midnight, so it's not... it's not going to be, I said we had that idea about last night. We're not going to do it. We didn't do it last night. We're not going to do it tonight either. But the portal will close for basketball. And actually, there was basketball news yesterday. And it kills me that this is news. It kills me that this is something that we would talk about. It kills me that this is something I put on the front page. You see it right up there in the upper left-hand corner of your screen? Diaz Graham twins say... Volvemos or whatever however you pronounce we return in Spanish. for the 2024-25 season. It's news now, and understandably so, when guys don't transfer. We're at a point where every prominent player announces his return. Is this happening around the country? I haven't really noticed if other teams are doing this or other schools are doing this, but this has been going on since December, when we saw like Kenny Johnson and Gavin Bartholomew and Rodney Hammond announce that they were coming back. It's like, well, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to play at the school. And of course, we also saw Dayon Hayes and Solomon DeShields announce that they were coming back, and a lot of good that did when they ended up going into the transfer portal in April. But over the past couple of weeks, we've seen Jalen Lowe, Ishmael Leggett, Zach Austin, and now the Diaz-Graham twins, effectively through Pitt's official Twitter account, men's basketball Twitter account. We've seen them announce that they're returning. And then, like, we're writing articles about it. And like, we all know that all of these guys have decisions to make. You know, we're not going to pretend like this isn't, well, you know, what are the Diaz-Graham twins going to do? Are they going to come back? Are they going to stay? Or they go, well, we haven't seen anything yet, so it must still be up in the air. We don't know what's going to happen with Ishmael Leggett or Zach Austin. I mean, and I get it. Because all these guys were being pursued, you know, just like in December when, you know, whether it was Bartholomew or Hammond or Kenny Johnson or whoever it was, Kanate, you know, Dayon Hayes and Solomon DeShields, like, all these guys made these announcements because there was some decision to make. But like, we're writing articles and making big news stories, and when the Pitt basketball Twitter account tweeted that out about the Diaz-Graham twins, there were 3 new threads started on our center court at the Pete message board of people saying the twins are back, and like, yeah, they are. And that's something to be celebrated. It's good that they're back. They're good players. They'll be, you know, contributors to this year's roster and this year's team. But like, this is the news now. Is guys announcing their return. And it feels like it's not just, you know, for a while there was, so like last year, Blake Hinton tested the NBA draft process, right? And then he announced that he's coming back to Pitt. If there are guys who could be potential like one and dones, or football guys who seem like they're right on the edge, they might go to the NFL or they might come back for another year. All the super seniors, when guys, you know, were done with their sort of conventional eligibility and decided to come back for a sixth season. Like, I get that. There's sort of a known public decision that they're making, but now the known public decision is being made by every guy of any kind of significance whatsoever. And for basketball, where there's only 13 scholarship guys, you lose a couple to graduation. You know, you lose 1 or 2 to transfer. You lose 1 to the NBA. The other, how many does that leave? 8, right? Blake Hinton and KJ Marshall went to, and Michael Hewitt. So the other like 7 or whatever are announcing whether or not they're coming back. And I don't think we've seen anything from Marlon Barnes or Papa Conti, but I wouldn't imagine that we will. But anybody with a pulse or anybody who played last year has now made an announcement. Jalen Lowe, Ishmael Leggett, Zach Austin, and the twins. And this is just part of it. And I don't mean to downplay the twins or their roles on this team. I've written a lot about how I think Guillermo might end up being the starting power forward. Now, if they make certain additions, like a transfer from Kentucky, maybe that changes. Maybe he's not the starting power forward, but very realistic chance that Guillermo Diaz-Graham is the starting power forward for this team. And if not, he'll play a lot of minutes at that position. So he's an important player. You know, Jorge Diaz-Graham played 16 games last year. He comes back and plays a full season. He'll be a top reserve on the wing. So, I mean, these are guys who are going to play. They're not insignificant players. It's not like a bunch of walk-ons announcing that they're returning. But damn, this is the world we're living in right now, where this is prominent news. And then you have the flip side of like, okay, we're making a big deal about this. This is prominent news, but it doesn't even matter. I mean, like, it does matter, but it's not really even finalized. It's not. Because, like I say, the transfer portal for basketball, I think, closes today. Somebody could come in and offer the Twins a bunch of money, and guess what? That tweet yesterday isn't going to matter. Because the reality is that happens sometimes in football. That happened at least a couple of occasions. I mean, like I mentioned, Deion Hayes and Solomon DeShields in December tweeted about how they were coming back. And I'm pretty sure later in December, at least one of those guys was getting courted again and almost left again, like a week or two after tweeting how he was coming back. And now, a few months later, both of them are gone, despite tweeting about how they were coming back. They made their announcement. So, like, they were locked in, and it wasn't just an empty tweet. It wasn't just an empty social media post. They were locked in. Everything was set with the NIL. Everybody was happy. And they're still going. Like, nothing is finalized except for, like, in terms of football until yesterday when the portal officially closed and nobody could go in. And they even changed the rules. It used to be grad transfers, I think, could go into the transfer portal anytime they wanted. Now, even that is sort of locked up. You could still, if your coach leaves, I think it's just your head coach, there's a 30-day sort of special transfer window that opens. But otherwise, as of yesterday, anybody who wasn't in the transfer portal as of yesterday is not able to go into the transfer portal until you get to the December portal window. And so that's when it really becomes finalized. And let me tell you, I'm pretty sure Pitt was sweating it a little bit leading into yesterday. And not leading into yesterday, like throughout the day yesterday. I think there were players on this team, prominent players, young players, good players, who were getting pursued by other schools. Okay, let's take our brief moment for indignation about tampering. Good. Now we can move on. But this is what happens, and this is what has happened. It's what happened in December, and it happened again this spring. Nick Saban said it during the draft, right, about the Toledo corner. Oh, this is a guy we were trying to get to go into the portal. I mean, there was a Morning Pitt I did back in December, maybe, where I said, like, there's that classic phrase about saying the quiet part out loud. And I said, there's really no quiet part anymore. And even Nick Saban is admitting that there's no quiet part anymore. It is what it is. Tampering, get out of here. Pay to play, pay for play, get out of here. Nobody cares. You just do it. Do whatever you can to get the players you need on your roster to try to win. And so that's what other teams are doing this spring, trying to get some of the prominent players off of Pitt's roster. Obviously effective with a few of them, Hayes and DeShields in particular. The other six, Christian Bear, Antonio Kamen, Israel Polk, Dorian Ford, Javonte Royal, and Cole Mitchell. I don't know if those guys were being hotly pursued. Obviously, none of those six has found a home yet, at least not that I've seen. I apologize if I missed it. Only Hayes and DeShields have found new schools, with Hayes going to Colorado and DeShields to Texas A&M. But I think, up until late last night, or maybe midway through the day, when they finally got things sort of finalized, I think other schools were still coming after some of Pitt's guys. And that's just how it is. Until that moment when the portal closes, so the guys on your roster are pretty much locked into your roster until December, and they can't go in the portal. I mean, in theory, they could leave. They could, somebody could, use the transfer portal as a way to go from one school to another. But up until that point, when the gavel banged last night at 11:59 or whatever it is, I think there were a few guys that were sweating and not worried about losing, but certainly keeping an eye on it. You never really know what's going to happen. And this is the world that we're in right now. This is the reality of college sports right now. And I think basketball, I don't think Pitt basketball is going to be going through any real stress today. I don't think they're worried about losing any guys. I mean, I guess if somebody came through and offered Jalen Lowe $1 million or Ishmael Leggett, $500,000 or something like that or more, maybe they have to worry if somebody makes like a late play to try to get one of their guys to go into the portal and leave the roster. But I don't think there are too many concerns there. But football definitely had them, and this is what you're going to deal with every year in these transfer portal windows, the December window and the spring window, until the portal window closes for each of those periods, this is what you're going to deal with. You're going to be working to try to hold on to guys. You're going to try and hold on to as many as you can of the priority guys that you want. And then you're just going to have your fingers crossed and sweat it out until that time comes. Because even if you get something done, you make a deal, who knows? A better deal might come along. And this is how the system, and we use that term loosely, this is how the system is set up right now. That you can agree to one deal, but if a better deal comes along, you can take that deal. And all right, now we'll have our moment for righteous indignation about loyalty. Go ahead. Okay, we got that out of our systems, but this is just what the system is right now. And again, I use the word system just to refer to the whole of things because it's not much of a system at all. We've talked about this a lot of times. There's not much structure to it. There's not any structure to it. There's no regulation. There's no oversight. There's no transparency. There's none of the things that make a system reputable, respectable, or even functioning in any kind of normal way. None of those characteristics apply to what we currently have and what you currently see in college sports. So I can't really call it a system. I use system as sort of a shorthand to refer to all of it, but it's not a system because there's no structure to it. And the sooner there is some kind of structure and regulation, the better things will be. But for now and for the foreseeable future, it's the Wild West. It really is, which coaches said it would be. And I think what the coaches understood and what a lot of people understood is that without any regulation, without any transparency, without any structure, this thing is just, it's going to be all over the place. And that's what it is. So you end up sweating it out with a few guys yesterday, right up until that final bell rang and you could kind of settle in. So they should have a few spots that they can work with here. I mean, it's going to depend on how many of the walk-ons, guys who, previous walk-ons who got a scholarship in previous years, whether those scholarships are renewed. But they should have a space or two to try to add someone. I think obviously the priority is defensive line, and in particular defensive end. I just think it's going to be really tough to find what you're looking for. Ideally, you bring in a veteran defensive end with a lot of production and a lot of effective play, productive play, and a successful career at another Power 5 school. But I think it's going to be hard to find that. Maybe even a guy who fits that sort of statistical profile at a G5 school or an FCS school. I think it's going to be hard to find that, because this spring portal window is very much a seller's market. And in this case, the sellers are the players who are selling themselves to the schools and the collectives. It's very much a seller's market because everybody in the country wants an experienced defensive end who had 7.5 sacks last year. This is going to be hard to find. Number one, there aren't that many guys out there, I think, in the portal right now who fit that profile. And number two, any of them who are there, the market is going to overpay for them. Now, this is very much a situation where the market, your market value is basically what someone is willing to pay you. And there's no actual market value because there's no stability of, the market is completely unstable and it's entirely defined by what someone is willing to pay. And so at this point in the calendar, when you're in the spring portal window, the last chance to add players to your roster for the upcoming season, guys are at a more of a premium. And so if you found that starting defensive end, that 2-year starting, that defensive end with 2 years of starting experience who had 7 or 8 sacks last year, he's going to get a lot of money. He's going to get a lot, maybe even more than he would probably, maybe even more than Pitt would feel comfortable spending, maybe even more than a lot of schools would feel comfortable spending. But then I don't even know if there are a lot of those guys out there. You're looking at guys with 4 or 3 sacks, guys who are probably just okay or solid or maybe even average, and they're going to get paid above what would seem reasonable for a player of their experience and production because schools are desperate. And Pitt should be one of those schools that is desperate, but there's a cap and a ceiling on what's reasonable and what you should actually pay in these kind of situations. And so that's going to make it really interesting to see what happens over the next few weeks, because as much as we've talked and I've talked about how they need defensive linemen, I'm really not sure that it's going to happen. I'm probably less confident about them adding a defensive lineman now than I was at any point over the last couple of weeks. And I still think there's a possibility. I think they're still going to look for options. Even if you just find a veteran player to add depth to your defensive end room, you'll take that because you need something. I just don't know. I just don't know if it's going to happen. Which is wild to think they might go into next season with this same defensive line group. Never thought that would happen. But there's a lot of things in this world, in this business, that I never thought would happen. But as we keep saying, here we are, 2024. All right. Live show tonight, 8 o'clock, right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Jim and I will be hanging out talking Pitt sports with you. Of course, we're always hanging out talking Pitt sports at Panther-Lair.com. Panther-Lair.com. Pittsburgh.rivals.com. It's the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet. Football, basketball, and recruiting. You find it all at Panther-Lair.com and message boards to interact with hundreds and thousands of other Pitt fans. All day, every day, Panther-Lair.com. Thanks so much for tuning in this morning. I appreciate it. We made it through one portal window, finish up another one today, and we'll talk about it all right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you tune in for the live stream tonight. Enjoy your Wednesday otherwise, and we will catch up with you tomorrow for the Morning Pit right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.